Hey, what is good, guys? Ryan Hodge from DFSPowerHour.com here. Just wanted to give you guys a insight on how I utilize FanShare for my process when it comes to setting lineups for daily fantasy sports, NFL lineups specifically. They do offer a great PGA product as well, but we're going to focus on football since it's football season, baby. So they've got a couple different things that you can do here, anywhere from like just utilizing their news feed to checking out their blog and taking a look at just like some write-up and analysis that they've got Pat James doing, and some other good podcasts from the guys over at TQE are putting out as well, going over the ownership report too. They obviously have their trending page here, which is great just to get a quick little pulse on exactly what's going on in the league, seeing who's being talked up, and just kind of like a nice little hub for you to get caught up, drinking your morning coffee, or maybe Sunday morning comes around and you're taking a look at news here and just trying to see who's trending. But where the real goods are is FanShare Pro Tab. FanShare Pro Tab is unreal. Hands down, best way to get ownership projections in the industry. I don't think you can get better ownership projections anywhere out there. And I think having good ownership projections is very vital, very crucial to being a profitable DFS player, especially in large field tournaments. So what we have here is the FanShare Pro tab. You'll notice that we've got just kind of like ownership trends, trending topics, historical DK performance, DST points allowed. These are great. You can get stats like this really from any content provider. So if you subscribe somewhere, we have them over at Power Hour DFS. You can get them for 4 Fantasy Labs, you name it, Daily Roto. All of this stuff that you can get. This is great if you don't have that already. So just kind of icing on the cake here. But really what we're looking at is ownership trends. Ownership trends are the bread and butter of FanShare Pro. And if we scroll down, you can see what I'm talking about. Andrew and his team do a exceptional job at scraping the internet is really what it comes down to. Scraping Twitter, scraping iTunes, scraping, like Podbean, scraping all those podcasts, scraping articles that are behind paywalls, articles that aren't behind paywalls, free articles over on Roto World, you name it, right? They scrape the football industry. And what they do is they then come up with how much a player is being touted, talked about, and they give a sentiment rating for that. And then they obviously give a tag rating with it as well. So right here, you can see James Conner, #1 player being touted across the industry. We've got 58 tags here. It's kind of nice too. You can see the over-under of the game too. You can see the DK FanDuel salaries here as well. And then you can see like a start-sit rating here where 97% of every tag, or out of all the tags, 97% of them said, James Conner, you should start. Great, no brainer, right? Like it's pretty easy. These first couple ones that you see, I think obviously like, yep, this guy's a start. Yep, Big Ben's in a great spot this week. Should be a high scoring game. Yada yada yada. Well, what you can really start doing is filtering this out. Right now they only have the main slate available, but what you can do, and I'm 99% sure that you're going to be able to filter this by not only site, obviously, where you can do DraftKings or FanDuel, but you should be able to do like main, early only, afternoon, prime time. So if you are trying to get exposure to all those slates and you want to hedge that way, so you have different player pools, right? So if you play one cash lineup through the main slate, a great way to hedge is just to play like the early or the afternoon only, and it kind of just helps you get different exposures to players that you may not have in that single cash lineup on the main slate. So great way to hedge there. That's kind of a side topic. But what I'm saying is that they'll have a drop down here that allow you to see ownership for slate specific, which is really useful for when you're playing multi-slates. And what I like to do is go to this position tab here, and we can select quarterback. And I thought I saw James Conner up top. It should filter all the quarterbacks here, which it does. And really, when it comes to identifying the chalk, great, let's take those first 3 guys. That's going to be your chalk this week. Those guys are going to be the guys that are owned. Deshaun Watson making a late push here on a Friday evening 4 starting to become a little bit chalk too. I think what's happening there is people are talking him up, coming down after a letdown, going to be under-owned, right? So he's getting talked more and more and more on Twitter, in articles, on podcasts, you name it. And that's causing his name to rise amongst the ranks here when they scrape the internet. And that ultimately will probably end up him being chalk. The more he gets talked about, the more people get on him. It's really that simple. So you got a guy like Case Keenum, Alex Smith, Drew Brees. What's crazy is you can see this 24-hour mover here. Alex Smith is actually taking a pretty big hit when it comes to the last 24 hours. And this is updated very, very in real time all the time. So in real time all the time. You know what I'm trying to say. It gets updated a lot. So it's really good to just check back up on this, on a Friday evening. Make sure you check it again Saturday morning, so on and so forth. And so you can see who's going to be the chalk. And what I like to do is I like to go find a spot like, okay, look at Matt Ryan all the way down here. The number, what quarterback is that? 6th, 7th, tagged in a really good spot in what should be a high scoring affair, who's played very well against Carolina in the past, is not going to be the chalk. And so this is a great way to leverage the field in 20 max, 150 max, or even like the $150 3 max entry on DraftKings. I wouldn't mind playing one of those 3 max with Matt Ryan. In fact, it's something that I already have built out with a game stack there, because I think that game is going to go under-owned relative to like the San Francisco-Detroit game, or the Saints will probably be high-owned again, right? So you can use FanShare to get to leverage the field on plays that really shouldn't be owned, but are in just as good of spots. That's the important part here. Don't just pick one of these guys. Okay, cool. I'm gonna take Sam Darnold because he's down here at the bottom and he had a good showing on Monday Night Football. That's not how this works. You need to find guys who aren't being talked about, but who are also in good spots, who project just as well. If you give me a quarterback who projects for 20 points and you're telling me he's going to be 80% owned, just theoretical numbers here. You give me another quarterback who's going to project for the exact same amount of points, 20 points, but he's going to be 20% owned. Give me the 20% owned quarterback every single time. Every single time. And that's what we can use this for. And you get to use this at every single position, right? So we can do the exact same process for running back as well. We can go down here and take a look at running back, and we can see the same thing. Tevin Coleman shooting through the ranks as chalk, as Devonta Freeman was ruled out earlier this afternoon, right? So those are just easy ways to identify what can be considered strong leverage plays and to leverage the field there. I do also want to point out, I think it's very important to actually click on the player themselves and then kind of see exactly what's going on, who's talking them up, what did they say. Is it somebody who's really can push massive ownership, right? So if you click on the player itself, you'll see who's talking this person up, right? So DFSR, NFL DFS, I don't know, daily fan something, right? I don't personally know who that is. That doesn't mean that they don't have good content, but quite frankly, they're not moving the needle when it comes to ownership the way that JM is, right? When JM tweets some things, when he writes about something, when he gets on a podcast, that guy can move ownership. So you can see what he's saying right here. You have RotoCurve, probably another site that, regardless of your opinion on them, moves ownership just because they have subscribers. Dodging Tilt Week 2 DFS Pod, no, yeah, like, right? So those guys, I quite frankly don't care what they're saying. Whether they're saying start them or sit them, in all honesty, it doesn't matter to me, because what I'm looking for is ownership. I'm not looking for who I should be playing. I'm looking for what the ownership is going to be. So let's click on JM status here and let's see what he said. And he's literally just talking about snaps here. So this doesn't necessarily say anything. And quite frankly, this is a great tweet from JM, tweeting out some stats. He's got all of his stuff behind a paywall though. You should go check it out. 1 week season, right? So great great tweet, JM. Way to get people behind that paywall. But you can see what I'm saying. Something where like Adam Levitan does the exact same thing, where he tweets nuggets, but he's not telling you what to do. 99% of the time though, it's implied at like what it's going to be, right? So like if Adam Levitan tweets something along the lines of Greg Olson's out, Kelvin Benjamin averages 2.5 more targets per game when Olsen is out. It's basically saying or Calvin Benjamin, Devin Funchess is in a good spot, right? Like that's what he's trying to get. So you kind of have to read into it a little bit there. So it's important to click on that player and go see who's touting them and kind of just gain an understanding of what that person's saying. My personal favorite part of FanShare Pro though is this right here. This little button allows you to get all of this in a CSV. And for me, living in Excel during Sunday morning is where I spend most of my time. So once you've got that in a CSV, I already did a little bit of legwork here just for video purposes, but you can put that right here into a nice spreadsheet where you can now see everything very easily digestible, and they give you all of this. I didn't do any of this. This literally is what comes in that CSV. I just did some conditional formatting to make things a little bit easier for me to read, right? You got to break it down. So it's very, very easily digestible here. So when I'm building lineups, I can have this on a monitor and I can go back and look, okay, this is what's going on. I'm setting my exposures in my lineup optimizer. Great, this guy, yeah, definitely going to use Patrick Mahomes in cash this week. So do I want to lock him in 20 max? Maybe I'll hedge and I'll go with somebody like Case Keenum instead, who it projects very similarly, is in a great matchup, but is going to, carry 20% less ownership in something like a 20 max or 150 max, right? So getting this CSV is fantastic. And what you're seeing over here on the right, all of these tags and like the wide receivers and the position by position, this comes to you in an email when you subscribe to FanShare Pro too. So they give you these top 10s at each position, and this gets updated. I get one of these every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So they're doing amazing legwork for you on just giving you ownership, kind of giving you key little snippets here as well. So guys, FanShare Pro, it's totally worth a sub. They also have some other great tools rolling out, like a lineup optimizer. You get PGA with it too if you've never dabbled in PGA. Totally worth it to dabble in PGA there. So that is how I personally use FanShare. You can see that there's other ways to use it by like just clicking on the Bears and seeing what records or seeing what players might pop up just for the Bears specifically, or the Bills specifically. The Bears are on a primetime slate, so you're not getting any mentions for them really throughout main slate and stuff like that. And that's where the multi-slate option will come into play. It should be rolling out soon. And this is nice just to isolate it by team, really see where guys are at, just get a quick glance at their salary too. It's really nice. You got to make sure that you subscribe to FanShare Pro though. They update this information all the time, so make sure that you're constantly checking back here and getting the most up-to-date information. And realistically, like I started using this almost 3 seasons ago, if I remember correctly, probably about halfway into a season, about 3 seasons ago, and it's really changed my process as like a 20 max player, 150 max player, and quite frankly, if you're just playing cash and you're scrambling on a Sunday morning, you can come to this FanShare Pro tab right here. You could literally just, let me go back to all teams here. You could literally look at this and go, cool, Connor at running back, Big Ben, maybe a little too expensive in cash. Okay, Tyrod Taylor, Antonio Brown, Kamara, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Jared Cook. I bet you that works. Just knowing some of those salaries, I bet you can get that into your lineup. And you've just built a cash lineup that, yeah, it's going to be chalky, but it's chalky for a reason, right? We saw the chalk go off in week 1. So whether you are playing 10 grand a slate, you're playing 100 grand a slate, or you're playing 50 bucks a slate, this is so worth it. It really is. So give it a look, fansharesports.com, and that is how I use FanShare Pro. All right, guys, take it easy. Thanks for hanging out.